Welcome to Breaking Ice and Building Bridges from Possibilities. I'm Kelly Johnson.
And I'm Byron Jackson. Glad you're here.
Connecting a community through conversation.
Hello, and again, welcome to Breaking Ice, Building Bridges. My name is Santiago Ramones. Across from me, we have...
Trina Robinson.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Trina. Who are you? What's your thing?
All right. Again, my name is Trina Robinson. I am an author, writer, poet. I own a voice in writing, and my company is pretty much, I want to promote the purpose, promise, and power of voices, magnifying voices.
Okay. So a lot of writing, a lot of, whether it's in poetry or prose, or tell me about when you first kind of experienced the power of writing, or maybe even reading, I guess.
Yes. It actually was in grade school. And I know that, well, maybe some of, if you can think back to your grade school periods, you're introduced to like different types of poets. And this one poem that stood out, and, maybe some of you know it, but is it The Road Less Traveled by Robert Frost? So in that really got me to thinking about, different perspectives and, like thinking in the, in what he, wanted to say in his poetry. And it just made me think like, okay, well, I like the fact that something can be written in like a elegant way or in like a imaginative way, but then also makes you think.
Yeah.
And draws you in.
Yeah. As far as poetry versus like prose or storytelling, what's the one that you lean more towards?
I actually lean more towards poetry because, from being introduced in class, I, went and did my own research, and I found, like the greats Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, and some others. So it's really poetry because it's that small punch, that small dose, that can get you revved up or can calm you down. But I do like writing fiction novels as well.
Yeah. So from that initial excitement dose of knowing how to start arranging words and stuff, where did you go from there? How did you start applying this new knowledge into what you're doing?
Yes, I started writing poetry, and I actually wrote. I didn't know what it was called at the time because I don't have like a literary degree or background, but I started writing poems, and it was a collection that I, when I went to college, I just posted on my wall, and, people, when they came into the room, they would read like, oh, that's different. So I just kind of took my how I saw things and my perspective and just wrote about it. So I kept doing that until I was like, okay, well, I need to do something about this. So I need to, start publishing or, entering contests. But my first book was not a book of poetry. It was actually my novel, Penny's Perch. So it was a full-length fiction novel that I wrote. I actually got the idea from my mom. It does deal with grief and, losing a loved one. And the idea came from her when we lost our grandfather, or actually her father, my grandfather. And, it's kind of like a supernatural thing happened. I was like, wow, that would make a great book. So it's just taking those experiences, where the life's experiences, or something that I experienced directly or indirectly, and just using that and just, creating a story or even doing poetry behind it. So it's just makes me, that's how I kind of find the inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a poet and songwriter myself, and I definitely agree that the ability to say very little, but also say a lot is a really beautiful skill to have. And so I do really admire the craft of, yes, I mean, songwriting is poetry, of course, but there's something that is so powerful about just packing so much meaning into several lines or even just a few words. And it's like, wow, you can take this combination of words and just say something really expressive with it. Having been doing a lot of poetry and then actually having your first published endeavor be a novel, how does that compare? What sort of frame of mind do you sit in whenever you're writing poetry versus whenever you're writing prose?
When I'm writing poetry, and it's, how you mentioned like songwriting and music, because like that is poetry, and that's where when I'm in my writing mode, I have to have music on because it kind of gets me in the flow. And so with writing poetry, it's all about, like just flowing, rhyming. For me, is rhyming poetry. But as far as writing a novel, I have to be in a different mindset because I'm wanting to develop the characters. I want the readers to see all the characteristics and all the mannerisms, without actually physically knowing them or physically being in the book, but just giving those hints and accents so they can get a real feel for the character. So I want to go deep into the characters without missing the storyline, but I want the readers to like be familiar with the characters.
Yeah. Speaking more so on that writing a novel type brain space, as you've been doing more and more writing in that area, how have you, I guess, what are some of the methods that you've put together to kind of help yourself kind of structure your ideas, structure kind of like not just plot, but like character development, all these sorts of things? What works for you?
What works for me is I like structure. Like I like outlines. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have a notion in my head of how I want the story to go, or what I want the characters to experience and go through. So I put those as outlines, and the surrounding words or surrounding scenes, movements. I write that down, and then I put the actions to kind of like I have like the, I guess, secondary, primary, secondary, and like just like kind of like filler moments. Yeah. And then I write everything down and I put them in those categories, and then just kind of frame it to make sure that everything is flowing and going in the same way. So I guess it's still within writing novels and doing poetry. It's still all about a flow for me. Yeah. So it's it's just kind of like I just want everything to just make sure we get to that same conclusion.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned rhyming poetry, which is its own separate skill, which is not just, yes, putting powerful words together, but also making sure that the sounds are hitting together and making sure that even a larger combination of those sounds and even having internal rhymes and assonance and all that sort of stuff. How have you sort of developed your rhyme vocabulary?
It's always, I'm still in the learning process. Everything is, always learning. But I think that it comes from like just listening to music and just kind of like having that melody in your head, and then just finding the words to, put in there, like, finding the words that actually rhyme, but then also have that same similar meaning or context. So you can, so everything makes sense. So I guess it just comes from, it actually comes from doing it, repetition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like continuing to do it.
Mm-hmm. But not only that, you also help other people to work on these things themselves. How did you, I guess, first get motivated to helping other people with their writing?
I feel like we all have a story to tell. I want to help people get their stories out, to magnify their voice. And because I know, some experiences are hard to talk about or hard to deal with, but whatever you may have experienced, someone else may be going through that same situation, and them not knowing that there's a brighter side or a bright light on the other side, so just having people tell their stories and, to help someone else out and, just be motivated to overcome and succeed.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a success story that maybe someone has come to you asking for help with their writing and how you helped them flourish?
Yes. Actually, when I first started writing A Penny's Perch, I was in a group of ladies, 3 ladies, and we were kind of all writing our own story at the same time. So we were feeding off of each other. But what helped me to write is just to be raw and just write everything down, all the emotions that I was feeling at the time. Because when I started my book, it was just my grandfather that I had lost. That's where the concept came from. But in writing, I lost, an aunt, a cousin, my father. And then eventually I lost my mom, who gave me the idea for the story. But just in writing those emotions and getting everything out, it helped the other ladies that were in the group to, be open and to be willing to, go there with their words and not think about how this may hit someone, but just, this is their stories, their truth. So, just being free and telling it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because not only are we writers, but we're also big fans of writing. Who are maybe some of your biggest inspirations? Let's go in just like fiction.
I love Stephen King. I came to know of Stephen King through Carrie, which, this is just a story. My sister actually had the book and she would terrorize me with that book. Cause I don't know if you remember the original cover. It was like a mirror cover and it had her in red and it was scary. Mm-hmm. And she would terrorize me with this book. And one day I was like, why am I so scared of this book? Why is it putting these emotions in me? So I had to actually read it. And it's like, okay, this is a good read. Mm-hmm. And so just overcoming that fear and just diving into some of his other books, and then also watching his movies as well. So it's just kind of like just the curiosity of looking into something that I had an emotional reaction to, and I didn't know why, but figuring out that, hey, okay, this is a book, and it was a great book, and it got me into reading more of his books. So the fear didn't have to be there.
Yeah, it's really astounding, like just how good, almost flawlessly good, like Stephen King is. Like, it doesn't matter what he's writing about, if it's some scary thing or if it's like this really elaborate, like emotional drama or whatever. It's just, he's a master.
Right.
Okay, then into the poetry side, who are some of your favorite poets and maybe even rappers?
Yes, because poetry and rap, they go hand in hand. I definitely love Maya Angelou. I just feel like the power in her words, and it just resonates with me a lot. And then for rappers, I love like the, I guess you can say conscious hip hop rappers. I'm into like the Common, Tupac. I really love Tupac. Lauryn Hill is one of my favorite, who just was just recently on the Grammys. But even like Queen Latifah, like going back old school where they actually had a message. I love the message behind the music. That's whether it's like standing up for injustice or just standing up for yourself. Just that empowering yourself. So I love empowering words.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a really big fan of Kendrick Lamar, and I think that he's really carrying that torch forward of like all of the rappers that you mentioned and how he's doing it in his way, in this modern way, but it's also extremely classic as well. So.
Yes, and I probably aged myself with the rappers I name, but yes, definitely Kendrick Lamar. I love him, and I love, like you said, it's very like a movement, but it's told very like colorful. Yeah.
So then all of this about helping others to share their voices and share their stories. What have you learned by sharing your story? Like, how have other people maybe connected to your stories and reached out, and what have you gotten out of sharing your stories?
Yes. With my, the two published books that I have, Penny's Perch and my book of poetry, From Love, Back to Love, Is Love the Beginning or the End, I get great feedback with my fiction novel, Penny's Perch. It's like, it talks about a woman who is striving for perfection, but she doesn't reach it. And it's like a book of second chances. And so a lot of the women who I come in contact with that have read the book are like, oh, wow, that spoke to me in this part, or that spoke to me in this area. And with my poetry, it's like, I get like, oh, wow, that's really empowering. That's really, it's a bold statement, but I can relate to it. So it's a lot of my writings. The feedback that I've gotten is that it's all relatable. It's relatable.
Yeah. So then you're actually here because you've attended our podcast workshop. And so there seems to be some idea towards a podcast coming. So tell us a little bit of what that idea is and what that might become.
Yes, definitely. I'm interested in just developing that community, not just for authors, but because I feel like, everything starts with an idea that is probably written down or that's probably in your head. So that's where, voice and writing comes, not just from books, but also from businesses, like from, or just, outreach, community programs, things of that nature. I just want people to tell their stories and just provide positive outlooks and, be able to motivate and to inspire the next generation.
Absolutely. So it won't just be limited to authors, but a little bit more of everything else.
Yes, not limited to authors. I do want to make writers, authors, my primary focus, but also open it up to, like entrepreneurs, community activists, community leaders, community organizations.
Yeah. And at the same time, all of those people that aren't authors actually have really good stories to tell and they can actually become authors. So that's a really big part of it too. Yeah. What are you hoping that your podcast achieves?
I would like for it to just bridge the gap between, like those who think that writing a book, that's too much for them to handle. But I'll just making sure that because I want to, give knowledge and give, like some tips and writing tips and expertise on that. So just making those who want to write and think that it's an impossible task to let them know that it's not impossible and that their story deserves to be told. And then also those who are, maybe like small business or not getting that reach. I want to establish a platform that they can gain more readers, more followers, and more ears to hear their voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually something really important that happens that even if not a lot of people are hearing it, but just having a place to tell your story and just getting to say it out loud can be really transformative. And I mean, I'm sure you have it too, where maybe you'll write a bunch of stuff down and never show it to anyone, but really just the process of writing that stuff down is really helpful too.
Right. Very therapeutic.
Yes, absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to maybe mention about yourself or what you do that we haven't touched on yet?
I am writing, or a writer. My 2 books, Penny's Perch, my fictional novel, my book of poetry, From Love Back to Love, Is Love the Beginning or the End? And, working on the podcast. So just be on the lookout for that, definitely. And also some events that I have coming up is an author expo that will be happening in April. So, look for more information on that.
Yeah. Well, with that, where can people find you and, follow you and stay up to date with all the things that you got going on?
Okay. Yes. You can follow me I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Trina D. Robinson, the author, or my company name, A Voice in Writing. So at A Voice in Writing. And you can also find me on my website, avoiceinwriting.com.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Trina, for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, listener, for listening in. I hope you have a lovely day and remember to connect with your community. Thank you.
Connecting a community through conversation.
Breaking Ice, Building Bridges is the Possibilities community podcast platform. Thanks for tuning in.